stop your flow. Good morning and welcome to the Sports Debate Podcast. I'm BA along with Jack Hirsch and James J. Train Martin. I hope you fellas are doing good this morning. Getting right to it. We had the NBA Finals Game 2 last night. The New York Knicks prevailed 105-104. It's now 2-0 New York Knicks going into Madison Square Gardens, if I can say it. And it's going to be rough from San Antonio from this point. I said it in 6, but they're just disappointing me. How you guys feel about that game? Real quick. Jack, James, either one. Don't make it.
Yeah, I changed my prediction, hours before the series, and I originally said San Antonio in 7, switched to the Knicks in 6, which you guys can verify with the email you got from me. It's playing out basically the way I thought it would for the most part, even though I thought they'd split the first 2 games in San Antonio. Knicks are just a much more mature team. I mean, they're better coached. I know San Antonio has all this energy, and I do think they are going to win a couple of more games before it's over. And this series isn't over. I mean, I wouldn't count San Antonio out. I really wouldn't. I think there's a sense of complacency that has at least come over the New York Knicks fan base, hopefully not the team itself. I don't think the team itself, thankfully, they're talking about getting out the brooms and sweeping. I mean, the San Antonio team is just like too good for that. And believe me, if the Knicks don't win these 2 at the Garden, they go back to a game 5 for San Antonio at least. Let's say they split at MSG. San Antonio would be favored to win a game 5. Whether they did or not remains to be seen. But if they did, and imagine they went back to Garden for game 6, the Knicks would be under as much pressure as San Antonio, even though the Spurs would be facing elimination. Because if you don't win a game 6 at home, imagine the panic. And it kind of reminds me of the New York Rangers in 1994. They were way overdue to win the Stanley Cup. And they were up 3-1. Game 5 was at home at Madison Square Garden. And the celebration had begun already before the game, that the Rangers are wrapping it up. Everyone is giddy. Everyone is happy. But they lose game 5 at home. And then they go back to Vancouver and they lose game 6. And now they're on the verge of an absolute disaster, colossal disaster. They're playing game 7 at home. But fortunately for the Rangers, they got off to a 2-0 lead and they ultimately held on and won 3-2. But the point is, they could have lost that 7th game. It's far from over for the Knicks. It's not like they dominated these 2 games, not at all. It's not like they're so superior to San Antonio that this is inevitable, like when the Lakers with Shaquille O'Neal played the Sixers with Allen Iverson. That result was inevitable. This result still isn't inevitable, even with a 2-0 Knicks lead.
What's that, James?
Well, I too picked the San Antonio Spurs to win in 6, but I'm just not sure if that's going to happen. If anything, if they are going to win a series, they're probably going to go, for all intents and purposes, 7 games, because it's just these games are too close and they're fighting too hard to try to claw back into the game to win the game. Either the first game they had a really good lead, a 15-point lead in the third quarter, which they relinquished, Or here, you notice in the fourth quarter, towards the end of the fourth quarter, they closed out a 14-point lead to get back into the game. And of course, the boneheaded mistakes, man. I think the biggest thing is you can take from this and see that Wemby is the player he is. He's projected to be, but like Jack said, there's a lot of immaturity there with the whole team. I mean, the average age is 22, so these guys are relatively young, but there's no excuse there. The talent is immense and it's really there. And you would think that, like you mentioned, Jack, that the New York is much more mature, but I think if you have to lean towards a more talented team, I'm going to give it to the San Antonio Spurs, particularly with Wemby tilting, in their favor because of his natural gifted talent, being a 7'4" and being someone that's like a dominant force on both sides of the ball. But I think the biggest thing I take away from this is 12 turnovers between Wemby, De'Aaron Fox, and Castle. Each one of them had 4 turnovers, and then that last particular one from Wemby was, I think, that changed the trajectory of the game and maybe the series. I just think that they're going to have a hard time going back to New York and going up against a raucous crowd that's clamoring for a championship that hadn't had anything since 1973. So it's going to be difficult for them. But he seemed optimistic, even when they lost. He just went to the side, high-fiving his team. So maybe he knows something that I don't. But I think it's going to be tough.
No, he showed all this enthusiasm before game 2 the same way. Remember Donovan Mitchell at the end of game 3 against the Knicks? He goes back to the bench. They know they're down 3-0. They got one more game left to go. They're playing at Cleveland one more. They're like all, they're not quitting. In other words, their heads are up and all. He's shaking, high-fiving guys for the next game, and look what happened. They came out flat. This won't happen with San Antonio. Right. I mean, they're young. You want to know something, guys? I think this is a preview of the NBA Finals next year with San Antonio dethroning the Knicks next year. The Knicks come in as the defending champions. And you guys were talking, and not wrongfully so, about the biggest new rivalry in the NBA, the Spurs and OKC. When these finals are over, the biggest rivalry for now, going into next season, is going to be the Knicks and San Antonio, because the Knicks will be defending champions and San Antonio will be looking to finally get there. Has their time arrived? They've got to knock off the champs.
I disagree with that whole thing right now.
I wholeheartedly disagree with that. I mean,
I think right now the Knicks and the Pistons are the ones right now that are. If the Pistons would have got into it, it'd be a far more interesting series. But
no one cares about the Pistons. No one's going to care about them going into the year the way they lost to Cleveland.
And when they beat New York's behind again 3 games next year, and then they have to go face each other in the playoffs, we'll see how much of the rivalry is, because that's the reason why New York is.
And Jack, let's not forget about Boston. Come on, let's not forget about Boston.
Yeah, Boston.
I'm talking about rivalries, guys. I'm not. The Knicks.
New York and Boston are rivalries. First of all, that's one of the oldest rivalries.
Yeah, but the Knicks are going. If they win this series, they're going to be the favorites next year to come out of the East. They definitely will. And San Antonio will be the favorites to come out of the West. And OKC is going to be given a puncher's chance. People are going to say, well, if it's not San Antonio, it's going to be OKC. That's going to be the mindset. Of course, the Knicks are going to have a few teams that are going to be a threat. Teams are going to make off-season moves. Who's going to get Giannis? What happens if Giannis somehow winds up on the Boston Celtics and they still have Jaylen Brown and Tatum? Or even they trade Jaylen Brown to Milwaukee somehow and Giannis goes there in his place. So LeBron goes to Cleveland. That'll maybe set off a new attitude change. That'll excite their fan base.
What if Giannis goes to OKC for Chet Holmgren?
Wow. And Giannis in peak form. They might hold off San Antonio's rise to the top. Then you're talking about, that changes the equation. Then, that becomes a heck of a rivalry. Yeah, if Giannis is there, because the conventional wisdom is this. If OKC couldn't beat San Antonio this year, San Antonio is going to be better next year. I know OKC could say they're going to be healthier and this and that, but San Antonio is only going to get better. OKC is maxed out, about as good as they can be, which is extremely good. But getting Giannis, that changes the equation for whoever gets him. Yeah.
All right. Finish that off and get into our first question. Also realize there is a Stanley Cup Finals being played too. And the Carolina Hurricanes and the Las Vegas Vegas Golden Knights are tied at 1-1. I almost said Raiders. But they're tied at 1-1. It's been a very good series. If you don't watch hockey, start watching hockey. Stanley Cups is really where you should get initiated in watching some hockey because it's exciting. And, any team can win during the NHL Stanley Cup playoffs. So go ahead and watch those games. Our first question of today is going to be right on the Knicks. If the Knicks win the NBA championship, will it set off the biggest sports celebration in New York in the history of the team sports, of New York team sports? Let's make that clear.
Now, Brian, you're the moderator. You're supposed to defer to who goes first. I mean,
I was going to go with you first, Jack, just because you're in New York. Go for it.
Yeah, like there's a pause here, but they think we have a 7-second delay, so they don't hear me cursing you out. That's what they have in the meter, the 7-second delay. Will it be? No, it won't. Stephen A. Smith, he proposed this. I'm not proposed, said this. It would be to create the biggest buzz in New York team sports if the Knicks win it all. It wouldn't. I'm not talking about historical impact here, okay? The Jets winning the Super Bowl has more of a historical impact, but that's not the question. The Jets unexpectedly won the Super Bowl, and the Jets aren't as big as the Giants, any way you look at it. When the Giants won their Super Bowls, it was great, but the Giants aren't quite as big as the Yankees, but it was big. But you're talking about the greatest ever. Listen, when the Knicks won it, finally in 1970, when Willis Reed went limping out, is this any bigger than that? I don't think this is any bigger than that. And those Knicks teams had a weight as well. And you talk about the Yankees World Series. Yeah, if the Knicks win it, it's bigger than any of the Yankee World Series wins, in the 90s where they won 4 out of 5, and in 2009, it's bigger than the 1986 Mets that were one strike away from being eliminated in the World Series and miraculously rallied. But, I lived through the biggest buzz of all, at least one of the two. I mean, the one that I was too young for when the Brooklyn Dodgers won the World Series in 1955. What I was told the stories, what it meant to the borough of Brooklyn, it turned it upside down. It was insane because that team had been eliminated by the Yankees in the World Series year after year. And it was such a close-knit community, but that was one borough. They didn't go crazy in Manhattan, Staten Island, Queens, and certainly not in the Bronx where the Yankees played. But in Brooklyn, it was insanity. But, I was a teenager when the 69 Mets won it. I saw the buzz it created. It's as great as this buzz is that the Knicks are creating now. And you can argue that it's the second biggest. You could compare it to the Rangers in 94 and maybe give this Knicks team a little bit of an edge over the buzz and the impact they're creating. But no way is this even close to the 69 Mets that were building up. It was pure insanity what was going on with the Mets, because the Mets were historically maybe the biggest losers in the history of sports. and all of a sudden the biggest losers go on this incredible run that culminates in winning the World Series. I saw what happened. I lived through that. Stephen A was too young for that. He doesn't understand at all. Saying that this Knicks team had a greater buzz than the '69 Mets is like saying my guy Michael Spink's fight against Mike Tyson was more eagerly anticipated than the first Ali Frazier fight. That's insane. That it didn't even come close. I mean, anywhere close to it. So it's the '69 Mets. As great as the impact is, the only thing I could say, social media is creating this, narrative that New York has never seen anything this big. Not true. It happened in '69. This is bigger than the men going on the moon, the Mets winning the World Series. In New York, it was.
Everything's bigger in New York.
How about to say in New York it was for sure. Look, I remember who was it? It was Mac that put me on to do. I remember we used to do the dedication or sports memories, and '69 Mets was definitely one of the things I had to research and look up, and that's impressive. And I can't discredit your actual being there at that time to witness how dramatic that was. I get it. But what I am witnessing right now, Jack, is fans that aren't even, the Knicks, they haven't even gotten to the finals. And I see dramatically how fans are like, fandemonium is what you would call it, or fanatics, just everything out there. The stuff that we were just talking off air about how fans are doing things that seems like irate and chaos, but things that go beyond reason and logic. But they're doing it, and the reason is because of that long drought of not having the basketball championship. And you've had 2007, the Giants. They took down the 18-0 Patriots. That was big. When I look up the stats, there was maybe 500,000 to 1 million at the ticker tape parade. The 1996 World Series, we're talking about the New York Yankees. They had a 3.5 million because it had been so long since they won the World Championship. But now we're talking about the New York Knicks. You just mentioned those guys in '73. That was a great thing then, but it'd be like
next 69.
Yes, and then prior to that was still no. I'm saying they won. Yeah, I'm saying, but the last one is what I mean. The last time they won a championship was 1973, and so you're gonna tell me that something that's older than me, Jack, a drought of not winning a championship. It would be like saying the Cowboys winning a Super Bowl now, since the last one was in 1996. If they won one for the 30th commemorative 30th anniversary, the state of Texas is going to lose their mind. I'm telling you right now, it's going to go crazy. And so I know with the metropolitan area there in New York and how big it is, it doesn't really share anything else with any other sports. They're going to, just from what I've seen now and how they're doing now, they win the they win the NBA Finals, nothing will compare to that. It's going to be crazy. And they mentioned again when I looked up when the Giants, the 2007 Giants won the Super Bowl, people were going outside and popping fireworks and everything else for that. It's not going to be as crazy as this. This is going to be ludicrous.
Well, you're not comparing it to the '69 Mets now. You're talking about in your lifetime, because don't even. I was around obviously for these other championships, and the Giants Super Bowls don't compare to the '69 Mets.
For sure. No, I'm not comparing it to that. No. Still, I'm not comparing it to that. I'm just saying how it's still, again, just the idea of a team winning a championship and how things can occur. I'm just saying, like I said, even the Yankees had like a massive amount of people out there. They had the most amount of people at their parade. I'm just saying in '96, and I'm just saying that I think it's going to be bigger than that. I agree with Stephen A. Smith.
Well,
I just think
Stephen A. should know better because he was around in '69. I mean, he was maybe a little young to, remember that, I believe, but he was too young to remember that. But there's been nothing like the '69 Mets, the chaos and the build-up, just nothing like it. I'm not talking about historical impact per se. And I'm a Yankee fan. I'd love to say there was nothing like a Yankee World Series thing. I don't like to defer to the Mets. You think I like doing that? But I mean, I lived through it. It was insanity. Let me ask you this, James. You're pointing out all the people who are out there going crazy. How many of them are basketball fans like me, you, and Brian, for example? Or how many just like to go out there and party, to just get out there? And the Knicks are kind of like a vehicle. It could have been Ace Hardware won the softball league title, and they're having parties in the street, and they could all run out there, just have a reason, just like people who protest things. A lot of people are sincere in what they're protesting, and I have a lot of respect for people's sincerity who get out there to protest. But you have a lot of people who protest and go wild because it's a happening to get out there. This could be on anything.
right. I mean that you could say that about any period in sports that's probably occurred. But yeah, I'm just gonna think that I you see a lot of people out there. They're not wearing jerseys. They're not wearing New York hats or anything like that. But you're gonna see a lot of that. I just see all the people when they show the people standing out there. They got all their New York's gear on, and they're like shoulder to shoulder, and they're just excited. And okay, it's about to be crazy. You can see the amount of people when they look far back, how many people are out there, and we're talking about game 2. They're not even out there for the last game.
Like this, if the Knicks lose this series, those streets are going to be ugly. They're going to be really ugly, and man, what a letdown it's going to be.
Yeah, they better win.
I think the difference of perspective here is based on age. Jack, you've seen some things, as far as New York sports has gone. So my perspective and James' perspective and even Stephen A. Smith's perspective that you talk about are all different because Stephen A. is only a couple of years older than I am. So he was too young to understand certain things too. He don't even know about I was not even quite born yet in '69 when the Mets won the World Series. Well, yeah, I was. But Stephen A. Smith definitely was, but he's only 3. So I mean, you don't know either. Yeah. So it's your perspective of age that is the matter of opinion about sports in New York. I think what makes the Knicks championship unique is that basketball is deeply woven into New York City identity, and generations of fans have never seen a team like this win a title, and a celebration in Manhattan would be unlike anything the city has experienced in decades. If the Knicks finish the job this year, it would probably be ranked near the top, possibly along the Rangers' 1994 Cup that you mentioned about, because it was a long time before they won a Stanley Cup. It was 54 years for them, and a giant Super Bowl victory over what James was talking about, the Patriots, as the most emotional, significant New York sports celebration in the modern era. For sure, citywide excitement. It could be very well be number one. It could be number one. I mean, like New York, I kind of like look at New York as being a basketball city, not necessarily football, because the football is basically in New Jersey, so it's kind of like you know what I'm saying, it's kind of off to the side. But basketball and baseball seem to generate a lot of support in that city. I mean, a lot of support.
Yeah, but I'll tell you, Brian, if I had to rate the impact of teams in general in New York, which team has the greatest impact? Objectively, I would say the Yankees. Second, I would actually place the Knicks ahead of the Mets and the Giants. Okay, Giants are clearly ahead of the Jets. okay?
Mhm.
But something about the Knicks when they're winning. I mean, we're used to the Yankees. They've given us some World Series titles,
Mhm.
you know, for the fans. You know, unless they're very, very young, they've experienced it. But the Knicks, there's nothing like, you know, a top of the line Knick team, an NBA team. You know, they're just the personalities. So I'd say the Yankees won Knicks too. But if the Knicks win this championship, they're the most popular team in New York. I mean, they overtake the Yankees. I mean, and if the Yankees win the World Series this year, hypothetically beat the Dodgers in the World Series, the Yankees would not pass the Knicks if the Knicks win it. The Knicks' impact would be so great, they would have created the biggest buzz, more so than a Yankee World Series victory.
And on top of that, I would say that Stephen A. Smith mentioned this, and I would have to agree with him that Jalen Brunson will probably be the greatest Knicks player
He's
ever.
not, though. He's not. I mean, listen. We love Jalen Brunson. Call him the most popular Knick if you want. How's that? The most popular Knick of all time. Patrick Ewing is better. If you take a team, your New Orleans Pelicans need players, right? Every position. Is that fair to say, James?
I wouldn't say every position, but no,
Well,
they need some
James,
players.
if you have a choice to have their whole careers ahead of them, Patrick Ewing or Jalen Brunson, you're going to grab Patrick Ewing for the Pelicans. Brian, you're going to grab Patrick Ewing over Jalen Brunson for the Pistons.
I have a fair argument against that, and I've watched Patrick Ewing, and I would say that no, I disagree with that. I would definitely take Jalen Brunson, and because the only reason why saying that Patrick Ewing was a great center. He was a great center, but he got dominated by people like Jordan and other players. His knees sold him out. His knees sold him out. And I would think that, you know, that to me, if I wanted a player to build around the way everything's built around Jalen Brunson, if I got a 6'1" guard that can play the way he plays, I'm going to always take the guard no matter what.
You want to know something? Charles Oakley's been saying that Ewing's overrated. This. If I'm Patrick Ewing,
I'm not saying he's overrated.
No. But I would respond to Oakley this way. Right, I couldn't beat Michael Jordan. He had Scottie Pippen, and I had you as my number 2. I couldn't beat Shaquille O'Neal. He had Kobe Bryant. I had you. You know, there's the argument right there. He didn't have a number 2 of great impact. He had John Starks, Charles Oakley, very good players. You need those guys to win, but he didn't have. Did he have anyone near?
Fair enough. Fair enough.
McHale?
He didn't have a top 50, top 75 player next to him. No, I agree. Fair enough.
Yeah, I'd say that I kind of agree with James on that, especially during this era of basketball. You want to build around. So, I mean, centers are really few and far beyond. That's why when we have players like Wemby come into this league, you know, it's like, oh, he's a great center. Centers are trying to make a small comeback in this league, but it's not to the degree that we had in the 90s and 80s and before that when the centers were the dominant player. It's now more of a three-point shooting, you know, and you got guards and fours that can hit the threes. It's the game has changed. And you want a guy that would be on your team that would make that change, and Brunson would be the guy to do that. I love Patrick Ewing too, but it's just not his time. This wouldn't be an error for him. Just would not be. So yeah, I kind of.
Well, no, you change the style of game. It's analytics why they take the 3-point shots. They probably figured it out. You take more, and even if your percentage isn't as high, you know it could benefit you by a couple of points at the end of the game. By the way, kudos to Karl Anthony Towns. He's been playing like a traditional center in large part.
Yep.
And I love the attitude when he dunked the ball on Wembanyama. He got in his face, kind of indirectly got in his face. And he's playing like a 7-footer. You know, Wembanyama's taller, but Karl Anthony Towns is telling him, I'll go head-to-head with you. I'll play like a big man, too, if you want to.
Mm-hmm.
And
he weighs more than him, so it's not hard. I think that's the Achilles heel for Wemby is that he's light in the britches.
Mitch Robinson throwing that big body on Wemby. It's like man against boy if they're going to bang.
And I think that's what's keeping him out of the paint. I think that's what's keeping him out of the paint is that because he first of all, let's look at the negatives of Wemby. He can't go up and down the court for long. He's got to go sit down and rest because he gets winded. And Winded Biyama. Yeah, that's my new nickname for him.
Windy
Yeah.
Biyama.
He wasn't winning
Yeah.
that second half. He played a great half yesterday.
But you can see that he's exhausted. I can see he's exhausted for sure. I mean, I think he spent like if you in the old cars when they had gas reserves tanks. Remember reserve tanks in the old cars?
Yeah.
Back in the day, yeah, you had to hit the button. I think that's what he went into to play the way he played at the end of that game. But you could see he was exhausted.
9.5 seconds to go. The game is tied up. Why is Wemby bringing the ball down? I don't get that. Why is he bringing the ball down?
I don't understand why he brings it down all the time anyway. I don't understand that whole concept.
Okay, fair enough. He's bringing it down, but I think why does he pass the ball when the player is not turned around? That kills.
Right.
That was just
Yeah,
bad play.
at the wrong time. At the wrong time. You got to see that.
What it is, he's probably figuring, I want to get rid of the ball and get down low at something. And
but he panicked.
A mental error.
It's a mental error.
I think James,
right, and then
I think that goes along with James saying that he was exhausted at that point of the game. It might have been just that his exhaustion made him make a mental error in the judgment of passing the ball. It's Wemby needs. I know one thing. Wemby needs to start asserting himself in this game. If he does not start asserting himself in the game, this is going to be a sweep because he's got to do it.
Second half. Yeah, he had a great second half.
Yeah, but I mean, I get what he's saying, but I think it's going to be harder because of that's what it goes back to what I said in the beginning, how they're playing defense against them. I think the blueprint was laid out with Hartenstein against Wemby. He can't take a big body guy up for long. I mean, it slows him down. And we're talking a lot about this. We probably need to go to the next question. Yeah.
All right. Next question. Serena Williams is coming out of retirement to return to tennis. Will her comeback be successful? Go ahead, James.
Okay, so we're talking about arguably the greatest women's tennis player to exist. So arguably, I mean, obviously there's some other great people. She's tied for 23 Grand Slams, 14 double Grand Slams titles. She's been ranked #1 for 300 plus single individual games. This is one of the greatest tennis players we were talking about in her prime, though. However, I think a 44-year-old woman who's going to be 45 in September 26th, on September 26th, that doesn't bode well for success. I just think that, and especially since you had a layoff since 2022, that's going to be tough. And I just think that she's really going to have a hard time up against the likes of 22s, 26s, and 28-year-olds like, who are these people? My apologies. Arena Sabalenka.
You could just say the top players, James. That'll make it easier.
Yeah. Coco Gauff. Yeah, exactly. Mira Adrina. Excuse me. It's going to be tough. That's going to be really tough for her. And I just think, and again, at 44, 45, are you injury prone at this time? Trying to do quick lateral movement like you used to, I mean, it's not going to happen. And I think the stamina, I don't think she'll have the stamina to keep up with these people. I just don't think that's logical. And I don't think it's, a legit thing. Does she bring back nostalgia? Yes, of course. I mean, Serena is arguably the greatest women's tennis player to ever exist. And she's her name in there. But when I looked at the ratings never fell off when she retired. It still kept the high ratings of where they were when she was out of it. So if it's a ratings thing that people are thinking about, I don't think that's going to make a change in success for her coming back. So I just think that this is not a good idea. Maybe, but we'll see if she proves me wrong, I'll be happy because I'm a fan of Serena Williams. But logically, I just don't think that it'll be successful to some degree because success for her It's winning championships. It's winning titles. And I just don't think that's gonna happen.
And success to you, James, is just looking at the stats. That's why you're a stat guy. That's why you feel strictly based on stats. Terrell,
Well, so is she. So is
to
she.
the Hall of Fame. Isaiah Thomas, based on stats, should have been on the dream team. You're not looking at the outside factors. That's the problem. I mean, how do you measure success? How you measure it and she measures it could be totally different. And how the rest of us measure it could be totally different. You're looking at it, well, I don't think she's going to dominate before. And then even there, you're throwing a backhanded compliment. You're more or less, and I'm paraphrasing here, you're more or less saying Serena Williams, in your opinion, is one of the greatest women tennis players of all time. Sure, and Muhammad Ali was one of the greatest heavyweight boxers to ever come out of the city of Louisville, Kentucky, as well. Come on. I mean, obviously, she's the best. Serena Williams never hit a high note of popularity. She was never given her due at any point. And I always thought of the reasons why, you could look at some other factors. Why wasn't she embraced the way Chris Everett and Billie Jean King were? You could think in terms, well, she's black. Maybe there's a little racial thing there. But then we look at Coco Gauff. We're dying to embrace Coco Gauff. It's like, it's the girl next door. Everyone loves Coco Gauff, but she's now winning the majors. She's coming short on things. Then there's the fact of having her sister, Venus Williams, a great player, not as good as Serena, but a great player, champion in her own right. And it reminded me of the Klitschko brothers and the Spinks brothers. People sometimes don't distinguish between siblings as much as they could. They think of them as the Williams sisters. And then let's be honest, Serena's been a little abrasive personality-wise, just a little bit, not terribly. It doesn't mean she's not a good person. I'm not judging her as a person. I'm judging her as the way she comes off. She could come off better. Madison Avenue, who likes to smooth athletes' images over, she needed that. She really needed that to be trained the way Caitlin Clark is probably trained to a degree. I'm sure people tell Caitlin Clark, act a certain way, don't respond, to Angel Reese, you don't respond, you're going to look much better, stuff like that.
I got to interject here on that. I got to interject. What you just said about her couldn't respond a little bit better. You're telling me that people didn't still love McEnroe for being the way he was? They loved him. So I think part of that is that the black person shouldn't be being the way she was like that.
I said it. I said it. Like Deion Sanders could be talking about holding Shedeur Sanders out in the draft. It's looked at differently from Archie Manning holding out Eli, because one is this conservative, well-liked white guy, and the other is a boisterous black man. Absolutely. It has a psychological image. People don't want to admit it and confront it, but psychologically in their heads, they look at it differently. It's a racial thing that, I've said that. I've initiated that conversation before. But in the case of, I kind of lost my train of thought. Serena Williams, tennis-wise now, she's 44. She last didn't win. She last was in competition 4 years ago. She got to the quarterfinals of a major tournament. You're not going to get better in 4 years. You're just not going to get better as a player. Can she still win a major? Probably not. Probably not. Can she win a major playing doubles? Maybe. But the truth of the matter is, people usually don't care who wins doubles. Oh, and you thought with McEnroe, we like all these high maintenance guys, unfortunately. I don't. But people do. The guys who are the troublemakers get rewarded. Michael Irvin, he gets a spot on ESPN. Loudmouth Shannon Sharp when he was a player. And I like Shannon listening to him. He's a bright guy, well-spoken. But he was the mouth that roared when he was younger. He didn't do things in the most classier ways. Okay, always, and a few other guys as well. They're the ones that get the commentator positions after the more or less the bad boys of sports, like McEnroe gets the plum positions, but it's what it is. And but I think Serena's success comes in different forms. I think she could get the biggest success of all. Make a comeback, just be competitive, and people are going to start loving her. They're going to start loving her. The public perception is going to change. And if the public perception changes, we're going to start appreciating her past accomplishments more, start recognizing her for what she is, the greatest women's tennis player of all time. And it'll have a happy ending. Just let her compete and not be embarrassed. And it's good enough. It's like Tiger Woods, who really is still liked, even though he's been the ultimate knucklehead in things he's done. When he plays in a tournament, we're interested. We're interested in seeing him. And that's Serena. If she's playing, I'm more likely to watch, women's games. I think the comeback will be successful in that the public is going to embrace her more in the long run. But I agree with you, James. No, she's not going to win any major tournaments going forward because 44 years old and she was on the decline 4 years ago.
Yeah, I would say that it depends on what you mean by success. And both of you pointed out both the things that I'm going to point out too with her success means winning Grand Slams again. I don't think that's going to happen. I mean, you got to look at it like that. The women's tour is currently led by players like Ariana Sabalenka and a deep group of younger stars. And no major woman has won won a major singles title at Serena's age in the Open era. Let's think about that. And then returning after a 4-year absence is an enormous challenge, like Jack said. If it means by competition, again, Jack hit a good point. As long as she's out there and playing on, grass courts have always been Serena's best surface. So let her go out there and use that game. And she can win a couple of tournaments. I think you're right. I think you guys are both right in this situation. I don't think she's going to be able to win a majors, but she's going to be competitive and she will give people some fits. But yeah, I think her time for winning majors, if that's what she's coming in there for, she's going to be kind of shocked for that. I mean, I'm not saying she can't. Anything's possible with athletes, but it's going to be, like I said, with the field that she's going to be in, there's too athletic nowadays. And for somebody that hasn't been playing tennis for 4 years, on a competitive level, I don't think she's going to be getting those championships. But yeah,
I mean, one more thing I'll say on to that. Physically, just understanding how physics go with that sport, you got to be able to cover ground, and that means you have to have very good lower body strength to cover lateral movement. I don't know if a 45-year-old has that to be at the highest level. Let alone being competitive just in the first round. I mean, I don't know. I think she's a first round out, or if she even makes the cut. That's the thing. You got to make the cut. And there's a lot of young people that will probably beat her out because of her age, not because of her talent and who she was. I just think that it's going to be tough for her. I mean, Tiger Woods playing against himself. I mean, he missed the cut on some points. I mean, look at his age. I mean, just thinking it's hard. It's going to be a lot harder. The obstacles against her are going to be tough. They're almost insurmountable to me for somebody who's going to be 45 in September. That's just tough. I don't know if Ozempic's going to help her out in this way.
Well, Elizabeth struggles in cycle play. You don't have to struggle, Elizabeth. You can. I mean, you cycle at your own pace. I mean, when you say struggle, it's all relevant to to yourself. You don't have to be struggling. Just get in shape. And sometimes struggling is good if you're trying to push yourself a little bit to get into better shape.
Yeah, listen to this guy because he runs. And how old are you, Jack?
I'm old enough. It doesn't matter.
There you go.
I listen. The reality is the things you did years ago when I was young, I'd hear these older runners competitively thinking they could get back to where they were. And I kind of say that they're really deluding themselves. And I know I can't, but in the back of my mind, I'm always saying, well, if I work out, go out all out, if I do this, if I do that, but it's all relative to yourself. You set new goals when you get older. And that's why with Serena Williams, maybe she's setting a new goal. If I can just get to the quarterfinals of these tournaments and have fun, I'm good. My legacy is set. I don't have to win tournaments. I'm just going to try to compete. If she's setting new guidelines and achieves her new guidelines, that's a big success.
For me, I would have to agree with you. That will be more realistic if that's a goal set for her. And she gets there to see that she can still compete at a decent level, not at the level that she was in her prime, because that's gone. That's the reality for people in general. I mean, all of us as who are former athletes or people who want to keep in shape, you have to reinvent because you can't do the same things that you were able to do once when you were in your 20s. And like I mentioned, the aforementioned players, they're all in their 20s. So they're elite prime players that she's got to face. It's not like she's playing golf. She's pretty much playing against herself. You're playing one-on-one against these players that will, with no teammates, that will save you or mask any type of deficiencies.
We wish her luck. We wish her luck.
We wish her luck. I know we got to go on to the next thing. Yes.
Yeah, and thank you, Jack, for adding in Isaiah Thomas to the show.
As per usual.
I have one more Isaiah Thomas thing. I'm holding it for the next show.
When all is said and done, will the trade for Myles Garrett turn out to be a good one for Los Angeles Rams? Go ahead, Jack.
Yeah, well, obviously, if they win the Super Bowl this year, and Myles Garrett is a major contributor, it's a good deal no matter what happens going forward. Even if let's say hypothetically, Myles Garrett played one season, they won the Super Bowl, and we don't wish injury on anyone, and he retired. And Jared Verse went on to have a Hall of Fame career, and those draft picks turned out to be perennial all-stars. Well, all-stars is the wrong word. That's not hard in the NFL to be an all-star, but perennial outstanding players. Once you win a championship with a guy, you achieve your goal. It doesn't matter what happens with the other players that you traded away. And do I think it'll ultimately turn out to be good for the LA Rams? No, because I think it's going to come back to haunt them over a period of time. Because I think Jared Verse, the guy they traded for, is going to be outstanding. And he's going to be a younger version of Myles Garrett. Maybe not quite as good, but close enough. Close enough. That's what I think Jared Verse going forward. And I think when Myles Garrett ultimately slows down in 2-3 years, who's going to be the premier pass rush in the NFL? It could very well be Jared Verse. And they got other players as well that the Rams traded away other picks that could be building blocks for their team. And they straining themselves more under the cap, the Rams, because they extended Myles Garrett and they redid his contract, in a certain way. And I know it's a cop-out, and I'll defer to James in a second. It's a cop-out by saying it all depends on whether they win the Super Bowl or not, or at least get to the Super Bowl. That would make it worth it. Right now, I think it's a little too early, guys, to pick, an NFL Super Bowl matchup. It's a little early. I think we all have to analyze things a little more, even though I think for the most part, the teams have made their big personnel moves, that most teams are just going to start tweaking things going forward. That's what I believe. But the Rams are all in with Myles Garrett, but they had Jared Verse there. They had Jared Verse, but they went for the big name, the big fish. And I'm going to say, when all is said and done, no. It's like you're spending your money now if you're the Rams, and now you're having a day out on the town. Late on in the day, wow, I don't have to save money. I spent it early on stuff I maybe, didn't have to spend it. It's like James. You go to an amusement park. You go somewhere to Disney World, for example. Have you ever been to Disney World, James?
Unfortunately, I have not. No,
You're not
I've
taking your
always
wife
wanted to
to
go.
Why you're not taking your wife to Disney ever?
No, oh, no, we have not. It's not
Okay,
on our
let's say you
list.
take your wife to Disney, James. You're gonna look as soon as you get there. You're gonna pass by a store that has selling the Disney stuff. You're gonna grab and you're gonna buy immediately. I know you. So you and your wife gonna have stuff, but the more you get into the park, you're gonna see other stores, other stuff that you may have liked more. But you would have bought your stuff too early. That's what the Rams did with Myles Garrett. I think they would have been better off just staying put with Jared versus holding the draft picks, and keep controlling the cap, etc. So no, I don't think ultimately it'll turn out to be a good thing for the Rams.
Well, Jack, unfortunately, you do not know my wife. We would not be spending early at all. As a matter of fact, she's a wish list lady. She likes to place things in a wish list and be happy satisfied with the fact that she has the idea of saving money, but won't spend it. So she have a very good wife in regards to keeping the finances tight. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. With that being said, of course it's good for the Rams. I mean, it's good for the Rams because this is their MO, Jack. This is what they've done. And the success that they've had has been to 2 Super Bowls, 3 NFC championships since McVay has been there. And they have been incredible. This is what they've done. They've spent the farm for Matthew Stafford. They did the same thing for other players. They got Trent McDuffie there. And when it was a success for them with Matthew Stafford, he got a Super Bowl, and last year they were just a couple plays away from getting to another Super Bowl. And I think that's what they feel is getting Myles Garrett is to put them over the hump. He's on a defensive line that replaces, again, a 25-year-old 2-time Pro Bowler. However, he's the guy reigning Defensive Player of the Year with the sack lead for the all-time sack lead single season. So he's dominant, and he's on a line with Braden Fisk. He's on a line with Poona Ford. He's on a line with Byron Young. These are the starters. They have a really good rotation too for defensive line. So I think they're going to be really good. The only thing I question is whether or not their offense is going to be decent because, you have a 33-year-old Devontae Adams who's getting older. He's going to be 34 in this season. And you have Puka Nacua off the field issues. What type of suspension is he looking forward to when it comes down to it, when the NFL lays down the gauntlet? You don't know. I don't know in that regard. But defensively, who are they going to face? They're going to face the Seattle Seahawks in their own division. I think the 49ers are going to bounce back a little once they get past injury and all that stuff like that. But, who knows they get past injury.
They're a good year, the Niners. What do you mean bounce back? They're a good year. They'll bounce back
with a whole bunch of injuries. Right, exactly. I'm just saying, yes. I think that ultimately was the reason why they got bounced out of the playoffs, though.
But they won a playoff game. They beat the Eagles. They had a good season. They're not bouncing back. It's not like they're the Detroit Lions or the Minnesota Vikings.
Hey.
It is a bounce back because their goal is to get to the Super Bowl. And never win one. So that's their goal, is to at least get to the Super Bowl. And I think they're going to have problems when they face that defense. When they face that defense with a shutdown corner and pretty much a dominant sack master in Myles Garrett. They're going to have problems with that too, especially if Trent Williams decides to retire. So there's a question about that as well. But I think that they are definitely going to be much better, and it's going to be good for them in the long run. In the short term, I agree with you about the long term. I think that's giving away your young talent, and you it's just their MO though. That's all I can say about that. And I think they're going to be good in the short term for the Rams.
Yeah, I agree. I agree on that. So you're what they did basically was they replaced a guy that had 7 sacks last year, even though he's younger, and that'll probably help Cleveland in the long run, obviously. But they replaced him with a guy that averaged 12.5 sacks. You got to remember something. Byron Young was the guy that was with he led the team in sacks last year. He had 12. So you got that, and you know the ultimate defensive end of this era, man. That's scary. But you know what? Do you think this? Let me ask you a question off that point. Do you think this defense is better than the Houston Texans defense?
I think
no,
they can rival them. I think they can rival them.
Jared Verse had more sacks. He led the Rams in sacks last year.
No, he did not. No, he did not. No, he did not.
He had 7.5. So he has 12 total. He has 12 total.
Total, yeah.
His first year he had 4.5. Second year 7.5. Which his trajectory, his tackles were going up. His forced fumbles, everything. Jared is he's a all-around player. He's an all-around player.
D'Amico Ryans, the Texan coach, is a defensive coach, a defensive specialist. So that kind of plays into it. That's his pride and joy dealing with the defense. He puts the emphasis on it. So, I mean, that would give them an edge coaching-wise, Texans.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just think that you guys are right in the sense that for the short term, it looks good. Bar any major injuries, let's be hypothetical and say these guys will play out the whole entire season. The Rams are built right now to win a championship. They got Matt Stafford for 2 years, and they're throwing all their chips in there. And they've done this before with the Lions when they traded Goff for Stafford. They won the Super Bowl that season. So I think that Les Snead he's one of those guys that, he says F them picks, but this is what you ultimately want your team to do in the long run. Yeah, it's nice to build your team and win division championships, but that's not the ultimate goal here. Your ultimate goal is to win Super Bowls. This is the reason why you play the games, because you want to win Super Bowls. And when you see teams doing it, all these teams that have been in Super Bowls do this. Philadelphia's done this. Kansas City's done this. San Francisco's done this. And they haven't won a Super Bowl, but they've been in Super Bowls. The point I'm just saying. And then the Rams, they've done this too. It's like those 4 teams are the ones that are basically always in the Super Bowl from the last 5 to 6 years. They're always in the Super Bowl because they're making those kind of decisions. And that's why people say, well, the Rams got the Super Bowl lock. I never say that because stuff can happen during the course of a season. But if no injuries occur to the Rams, I would say they have a great shot of winning the Super Bowl within 2 years. It could be 2 years. They got a 2-year window as far as I'm concerned. And they do got a young core too. Let's keep that relative. Stafford will be gone maybe after his 2 years. I don't know what Garrett's going to do if they win the Super Bowl. He might retire. And then you got
not with the money being paid. They all play. They like to play.
Devontae Adams is old. So, I mean, those people have to be replaced eventually over the course of that time. But the Rams are in a great situation to win now and maybe win later on. I'm not saying they're going to be Super Bowl caliber after those things happen, but they're going to be contention in the playoffs all the time, but because they got a nice little core. But yeah, I'd say that. All right. Well, that wraps us up for today. Just a programming note. Next week, we will not be on. There will be a rear air for that day because I'm going on vacation. Sonia's going on vacation. We're all going on vacation. So, Jack, go on vacation, man.
Next Saturday, you mean?
Yeah, next Saturday, the 11th. I mean, not the 11th, the 13th. Might say, yep, the 13th, and that will also be most of the shows during the time frame from September, June 11th to the 14th.
Weekend playbook will still be on Keith and myself, correct?
You got it. Yes, Keith will still have his shows.
Fridays,
yes.
8 to 9, and Glove. And what about Glove Fist?
Glove Fist will be on its normal time. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we got you, Jack. We ain't gonna let you sit out too long, brother. But anyway, everybody have a great rest of your day until we see you next time. Peace.
Enjoy your vacation, Brian.
Thank you, sir.